Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tea with April. We're going to knock the pot over this afternoon. What a wonderful day. I'm not messy, but I love the drama, and there's so much palace intrigue today. Mm. We're talking about with this fight, this public spat that's playing out in real time on social media between Elon Musk, the former BFF of the current president, Donald Trump. Something happened along the way. Something happened along the way. Um, Covering Donald Trump, the first term and this term, we knew it was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. Let's just say that. Look at what happened between him and Steve Bannon. But look at this. Elon Musk was the face of the hurt, the pain, the federal job cuts. He was the man who had the chainsaw cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. And all of this, we knew something was going to happen, but all of this happened after the president of South Africa came to the Oval Office and there was questions about what Donald Trump had as knowledge about these migrant farmers. Now, you know, Elon Musk is from South Africa. He's a native of South Africa, and he came to the United States, and he was one of those who overstayed his visa. So, you know, as this immigration debate is going on, Elon Musk was a violation of the immigration laws of this country. But here's the thing: right now, these two are fighting. I mean, they not just fighting, I mean, they're going in. I mean, they're taking the knife and not just swiping, they're sticking it and turning it at each other. Elon Musk says that the reason why Donald Trump is looking for information is because he wants to get the Epstein files. He also says that the elections were rigged. Should Kamala Harris get ready to come back to Washington? And then also, he's calling for the president to be impeached. Now, you know, Al Green has filed for impeachment. He's filed for impeachment proceedings again. He filed for them the first time in the first administration. Now he's doing it again, and we're proud that we're going to have him on next week. We had planned this before all of this tea and the pot got knocked over, right? But we're going to give the tea with April today and talk about this. And you know, President Trump is firing back. He's like, I'm going to cut every business contract we have with Elon Musk. That's billions of dollars, okay? This is crazy. But who better to bring in to help me break this down on this hot, wonderfully warm day? Because we got a hot pot of tea. We're going to knock it over. This is hot information. We need popcorn for this. I need you guys to come on in and come on in and tell your friends because this is a big deal. We have none other than the latest New York Times best-selling author, my friend Jonathan Capehart. He is the author of Yet Here I Am, and he's also the co-host of NBC's The Weekend. Jonathan, my friend, hello. I'm so glad you're with me.
Thank you. Come on, let's knock
Well,
this pot
Jonathan,
over.
Jonathan, I mean, like we said, we knew this was going to happen, but did we know it was going to happen like this?
I mean, yes and no. We knew that
Hmm.
there was going to be a battle, that there was going to be a change in the relationship, and that it was going to get ugly. But there are gradations of ugly. You could, talk smack about someone in one tweet or social media post or press conference and then go on about your business. But these two, this is some real Housewives of Atlanta type stuff that's happening.
No,
I
Housewives
mean,
of Potomac. Let's say the Potomac. Let's say the Potomac.
yes, I'm
Housewives of
sorry,
Potomac stuff.
Real
'Cause,
Housewives
yeah,
of the Potomac. April,
yes. Mm.
when Elon Musk put out the Epstein tweet and then the impeachment tweet, and then did you see Kanye's tweet?
What? Oh my gosh. I was preparing for the show. What did Kanye say? Well, you know what? We
Kanye
should
tweeted
ignore
out,
Kanye.
but
What?
so John Favreau quote tweeted so Kanye writes, "Bros, please no," and then the hug emoji, and then we
Oh
love
my
you both
gosh.
so much, and then John Favreau, former speechwriter to President Obama, one of the Pod Save America guys, he writes, "Another child of this divorce." I
Oh my
mean,
God. Oh my.
The Schadenfreude on the left, anybody who doesn't like the president or Elon Musk or both is just, it's in high gear. But back to the original thing, we saw this coming. We knew this was going to happen, and we knew, and especially you knew it was going to get ugly, and it's gonna keep getting ugly.
But here's the thing, as we're watching this palace intrigue, it's not just palace intrigue. It is actually something that people should be paying attention to, not just people. I'm talking about congressional leaders, Republicans
Mhm.
who are in charge of the House and Senate. What do you think is going to happen? And if you heard from any of your sources that anything is going to happen, are they looking into this? I mean, he went on social media saying he rigged the election. Trump said it a couple of times from the Oval Office. And
Mhm.
we knew nothing was going to happen because Republicans are in control and support this president. However, you cannot take these allegations lightly that are being said right now.
No, you can't. But again, you put your finger on why nothing is going to happen in that regard. The
Yeah.
Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. They are not a check and balance on the president. And in fact, in
Mhm.
Speaker Johnson, the House Speaker, I mean, he's not just a supporter of the president's, he's a true believer. He's a follower. Remember, he was one of the architects of the big steal. I mean, come on. So
He's a
there will be
lifelong
no,
card carrying member.
right. So there will be no congressional investigations. There will be no calls for hearings and or accountability. If it happens, you know what, Speaker Johnson, prove me wrong. Republicans, I would love for you to prove me wrong, but you won't.
This is too big. You got two men who I don't know if they're on their medication today or they're not. You're talking about Elon Musk and Kanye West you brought in. I don't know what's going on, but the American public is watching this and he's throwing some big bombshells. He's knocked every pot over in every tea house, every house, everywhere. Okay. People are listening to this and they cannot ignore this. This is a big deal. And not only that, Jonathan, the American public is going to be hurt. This is the man who cut how many jobs, hurt how many people financially, and now he's telling what could be the truth about why all of this is happening. There's got to be something beyond this. And we got a lot of questions, but answer that to me. Answer what I just asked you if you can. And we're going to go to some questions because people are already burning up the text chat.
But I mean, all the questions you asked are the right questions. You are absolutely right. Folks should take this seriously. Folks should be. It should be looked into, these allegations of fraud and rigging the election. Absolutely, but we have seen time and time again that it's not going to happen simply because the Republicans, there is more fealty to Donald Trump than there is to the Constitution and its provisions for checks and balances, provisions of having the Congress, the legislative branch, be a co-equal branch of government, meaning they are supposed to hold the White House accountable. They've demonstrated they're not interested in that at all. I mean, just look at how they allowed Elon Musk, an unelected world's richest person, to chainsaw isn't even the appropriate instrument. He took a
Mm,
wrecking ball to the federal
yeah,
bureaucracy
yeah.
from day one of this administration, and they've done nothing. No hearings, no hauling him down to Capitol Hill to have him answer questions. None of that. So why do we think that they're not going to do it now?
So let me say this to you, and I'm a true contrarian. I believe I said this on Michael Steele's podcast, Goodbye podcast this week. Elon Musk has been broken by the American people, we the people. And I'm going to tell you why. Before all of this fighting happened, he has been looking like a broken man because the people have been standing out there protesting in front of the Tesla dealerships. The people have made it clear they've knocked his stock value down. He's lost money and he's now saying, I'm not going to support any more Republicans. I've spent $270 million already on Republicans and I'm not doing it anymore. The man is broken. This before this happened. And I guarantee you, the American people are going to protest again, go to town halls, and want answers. I hear you, but I believe this shakes a little differently than the other things did. But let's go. We have Jonathan, people want you to answer questions. Elon thinks he's going to win. Not sure of that. What do you think about that?
Well, this is what makes this fight among the most interesting in terms of the president's fights with his quote unquote enemies. Sure, Donald Trump is the most powerful man in the world by virtue of election. Elon Musk is the world's richest person and therefore among the most powerful people in the world by his own success, his own hard
Mhm.
work, his own crazy genius, if you want to call it that. He's got unlimited funds compared to
Yeah,
Donald Trump. So that's what makes this fight. And like, we're watching this fight on a social media platform that Elon Musk owns. I
that's
mean, this
true.
is
That's true. That's true.
I put on Twitter and on Threads
Oh, no, no, no.
today's
It used to
news.
the platform formerly known as Twitter. The platform formerly
Right,
known as Twitter.
X. But I put on both X and Threads today's news in one GIF, and it was Godzilla versus King Kong fighting. That is what we are watching.
Oh wow. Someone said, now this is true. Nobody was going to investigate Watergate until that broke wide open. There you go. Preach. All right.
Right.
Democrats, the Democrats need to leverage. This regime excels in gaslighting. That's true too. The
Mhm.
election allegations must be addressed. I agree. I agree. One of those melomatics have the nuclear codes. Yes. Not one of them, both of them have the nuclear codes. Well, we say the president. We assume that Elon Musk knows uh, a lot more than we
What
think he does.
did he ever get a security clearance, by the way?
Madlamatics. They took a lot of security clearances away, but he had a lot. No, no. He was able
Right.
to skirt the law. He was able to skirt the law. Remember, they were fussing about that? He was able to
Right.
skirt the law. He did things. Yeah.
You know what,
Rule of
April,
law
you
was
did say
broken.
something. You did say something, and I've been poo-pooing the role of Congress. But you put a finger on something very important. When Congress, you know, just stood on the sidelines, it was the American people who stepped up and said, "Oh, no, 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 no. This is not what we want. This is not we're not down for this." So protesting in front of Tesla dealerships, but also going to town halls in ruby red states, like the town hall that Senator Chuck Grassley held in ruby red
Yeah.
Iowa. He's been in the Senate
Yes.
for a bajillion years, and you've got these, farmers and things saying, "What about that man in El Salvador who was sent there accidentally? What are you doing to bring him home?"
Mr.
That was a
Garcia,
yes, that was a
due
month ago.
process. Right, due
Folks
process.
understand
And
that,
yeah.
and
And
so
it's not
I
about
think
Mr. Garcia.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Right. It's about the rules that are in the Constitution. And so I do think, to the person's point about Democrats, I don't know how much leverage they have, but I do, because they're not in control, they're not in power. But I do think these
Yeah.
sort of shadow hearings that they've been doing, they absolutely should do one on the allegations coming from Elon Musk and the president about Pennsylvania.
It's a lot that needs to be investigated. Someone said the megalomaniacs, I don't know how to pronounce it, but
Yeah, that's right.
megalomaniacs, everybody,
Megalomaniacs.
yeah,
Yeah.
megalomaniacs. Yeah, Trumplicans is as far as I can go, but I don't know megalomaniacs. Okay. Well,
Two
Jonathan,
syllables.
we've spent a lot of time. We've got questions upon questions upon questions. And yeah, what does this do to Doge? What does this do to Doge? We've got questions upon questions upon questions, but you have a
Mhm.
heart out at a certain time because you are on a book tour. And guys,
Yes.
I want you to support him. Tell me about Yet Here I Am. Guys, for full transparency, Jonathan is a friend. He's helped me in a lot of things. And yes, hold your book up. Isn't that a beautiful book? I love that. And I love his husband, Nick, as well. Let me tell you, Jonathan, he let me read a lot of this and I encouraged him to do it. And see, I told you so. You're now a New York Times bestseller. Tell us about this
Mhm.
book.
So you recall in Trump won in 2017, I decided that I needed to get off the news merry-go-round and do something that was more a little healing. And so I had all of these stories in my head from my summers down south in North Carolina with my grandmother, who was a Jehovah's Witness, and going witnessing with her. And so I just sat down at the computer and just started writing and kept writing all weekend. And I sent those pages out to a bunch of people, but three people in particular wrote back right away and said, keep going. Joy Reid, Tamron Hall, and one April Ryan. And April, you have been the one who was consistently, every time you saw me out in public, every once in a while you would send me an email or a text message.
With this
How's it
book.
going on the book? You got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing. So for that, April, thank you so much for the encouragement. But this book tour, I took the red eye. I was in San Francisco for 12 hours. Yeah,
Oh my
yesterday,
God.
and took the red eye to get back for we're doing an event at the Library of Congress tonight. And this book is just it's my story. It's a memoir. It's the story of a big head news nerd from New Jersey who always wanted to be a journalist, wanted to be a television anchor, but had no roadmap for how to get there. There was no, and there remains no one else in my family is a reporter, a journalist, a
Mm,
writer, an author in television. When I was saying at 12 years old, this is what I want to do, there was no one in my family to help me do it other than my uncle McKinley,
mm.
who was an electrician at 30 Rock
Wow.
in New York. And you can read
Yeah.
I won't belabor the story, but you can read it in the book, and how my one visit to him at 30 Rock is what set me on the trajectory where I am now. And just one other thing, April, this book has lots of lessons in it that I've
Yeah.
learned along the way, and there are three that jump out. One is, whenever anyone asks you what you want, tell them, because you never
That's
know
right.
what can happen. The second thing, go where your talents are wanted. There are so many people who know they're good at stuff, but won't say it or won't admit it, because there's always someone out there who's going to say, well, what makes you think you can do that? Or who do you think you are? But then there are also people who will come out and say, you know what? Why don't you come do this? Why don't you try this out? Go do it. And then the third, and this leads to the third lesson, and that is, everything we do in life is an audition for something else. We just don't know what for yet.
Preach
And
your
you
story.
will read, when you read in the book, you will see how that all comes together.
Well, Jonathan, I'm going to say this. One of the reasons why I felt that you should keep going on that book, because at one time you put it down for me, like, I'm doing so much. I was like, please write it, please, because you have a story to tell. And there has been a systemic problem in this country with not embracing everyone. And I think for us to be able to embrace everyone is to hear their story, to make people understand we're not so far apart. We're not as different as you think we are. And for you to get married and Eric Holder to be your the
The officiant.
presiding officiant, the officiant for your wedding during the Obama Biden years was big. And for you to have this book subsequently in the second term of Donald Trump, where, especially during this month, he doesn't even want to call it Pride Month, he wants to call it something different. Look at the circle and look what you are doing to help open closed minds. And for that, I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, April. Thank you. What's been really gratifying is, I mean, it's great hitting that New York Times bestseller list, but really the thing that has been most gratifying is hearing from people who have already read the book, or have listened to the audiobook, or at some points in the book, and telling me how much my story resonates with them, reminds them of aspects of their lives and their stories.
Yeah.
And it puts a finer point of something that I always say. I'm black, I'm an out gay married man, but my story and the stories that you read in my memoir, people, all kinds of people can find themselves in this book, and I'm hearing from them, and that is the most gratifying thing of all.
Yeah, and when I started reading your book, it resonated with me because I spent summers in North Carolina with family. A lot of little black kids did that because
Oh
you
yeah.
lived in the city. They wanted to broaden your horizons to see what it's like to live a different type of life. So what I want to do is say thank you to you for joining the tea with April. The tea is hot. We
Mm.
knocked the pot over. But one last question I want you to answer on this. I know we knocked the pot over, you know.
Yep.
um, someone said, "What is Musk gaining from this fight right now?" What do you think?
I don't know, because he's fighting with a man who can cancel his government contracts in a
The
heartbeat.
government conference. Yeah.
Government contracts. So he's risking a lot. I don't know. I don't know. That's why that question is part of what makes this fight, the Godzilla versus King Kong fight that we're watching, so fascinating, so interesting.
Are you King Kong or Godzilla? Which one?
Oh, I don't. I just named the monsters. I'm I'm just watching.
I kind of like King Kong better than Godzilla, but I know a lot of people going to be upset with me. Anyway, I appreciate you, my friend. Cheers.
Oh, thank you,
Congratulations on your New
April.
York Times bestseller. I love you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, for joining
You
us with the
too.
tea with April. Yes, and
Congrats on
keep
the show.
going on. Thank you, and congrats on your New York Times bestseller. Yet here I am, Jonathan Capehart. He's got a New York Times sellers book. Go get it, please. Jonathan, thanks for joining. And I'm telling you guys, this has been an interesting conversation with John. That's right, he's got the book up. Jonathan, you go. You got to run to get to your
All
next
right.
thing. Thank you,
Bye,
my
everybody.
friend. So, guys, the tea with April is not over. It's not over. We're still knocking the pot over. I want to, first of all, before I go on any further, I want to thank my husband for designing, oh gosh, for designing this beautiful, oh gosh, I got it the wrong place. Here we go. For designing this beautiful cup, the tea with April. And he also got me a hat. So here we go, the tea with April. This is a big deal that Jen and Norm gave me this show. I thank you so much. They reached out to me and I was like, hey, yes, let's do this. And I'm really appreciative to be here because I thought about contrarian. I am a contrarian. And I think many of us in this moment happen to be. And I want to bring on someone who can break down legalese on a lot of this stuff that's going on right now. I want to bring on Chioma Chukwu. Chioma Chukwu. Chioma, thank you for joining us. Whew, welcome to the Tea with April.
So
Mm.
glad you're here. Thank you for having me, April. The
So
tea is hot.
Chioma, it is hot and it's boiling. It stung my tongue, but we knocked the pot over. So you're going to help us. Let's talk about this moment because we were going to talk about Harvard and Signal Gate, but the confidence in government now in the midst of this. That's what you were talking about for a moment. And talk to me about your organization and what you do in dealing with this and the lawsuits that you have because of this question and the confidence in government.
Yeah. So American Oversight is a nonpartisan watchdog organization that uses a tool called the Freedom of Information Act to unearth what the government is doing behind closed doors. And the Freedom of Information Act essentially is a federal law that says that the government records belong to the American people. So the American people have a right to demand that their government turn over records that explains how they're spending money, who is influencing policies, all of the things that make our country run. And what we're seeing now is that it has taken on increased importance because we are experiencing and living through a chaotic presidency. We are constantly faced with infighting, black eyes, name calling. I mean, you name it. Policies changing every day. We don't know which way the wind is blowing. And the American people deserve to know that those who represent or supposed to represent their interests have their best interests in mind. And so what we do is we use this tool to demand information from the government. And we expect that that information will be turned over. But what we are finding in this administration, particularly, they're not willing to turn over that information. They don't want the American people to know what they are doing behind closed doors, because if the American people knew, then they wouldn't be able to get away with a lot of the mischief that they're trying to accomplish. And so that's what, as a watchdog that's been around since 2017, we've been doing this, and we are finding increasingly that the Trump administration is, obstructing and delaying and failing to respond to information that are rightfully the American people's records.
So I'm going to ask you this, Chima. We've got a lot in the chat, and your organization deals with it today. I mean, I think today is providential for us to have you, and we didn't even know this was coming down the pike, right?
Right.
Someone said if there was election fraud, the rigging that Donald Trump said twice from the Oval Office, and now that Elon Musk is asserting as he's no longer friends with Donald Trump, someone said, how the F does Vance get the presidency?
Well, I think there are many assumptions that are baked in, and I think as a watchdog organization, that is what our charge is. Our charge is to ask those tough questions of this administration, as well as state governments, because state governments, that is where these elections take place. And so we have been tracking the election denial movement since 2020, as we saw the proliferation of the big lie permeate all aspects of the country, and we have seen that movement is still alive and well. And we conducted many investigations into the sham audit in Arizona with the state legislature, the Senate saying that there is fraud in the election, and in Wisconsin and in Georgia. So we do a lot of work at the state level, where we are demanding information from state governments as well about how they are administering their election laws that are supposed to be nonpartisan, that are supposed to give access to all American people so that they can exercise their right to vote. And we know that that's not always happening. And so there are many questions that many of us have, myself included. And these are all questions that American Oversight is going to try to get to the bottom of.
Chima, someone asked, they said, is it true that they are not keeping records that are required by law? Are you finding that in all of your research?
That goes to the heart of much of the work that we are doing, particularly under this administration. We are interested in the preservation of government records, irrespective of who is in the White House, because those records belong to the American people. What we are finding with this administration, as they are gutting the federal workforce, firing federal workers across agencies, many of those workers that they're firing are the individuals who are responsible for promulgating the rules that govern the preservation of records, the training, and the production of information to organizations like American Oversight that are asking for this information. So as a preliminary matter, the administration is gutting those employees, firing them. So when we're asking for this information, there aren't even federal employees who are there to provide the information that we're asking for. But even where those employees are still there, what we are finding, as we saw with Signalgate, those records are being deleted. And so just to paint the picture, for the few who were not tuned in to what was happening back in March, when we learned from Jeffrey Goldberg, the reporter who was inadvertently added to this secret Signal chat, where senior Trump administration officials were communicating and planning regarding this imminent war plans in Yemen, information that, had those communications been intercepted, could have resulted in the deaths of our men and women in uniform. So when we learned that our senior most, administration officials were communicating so recklessly about such sensitive information in a Signal chat, which is insecure, by the way, as well as setting these messages to auto delete, we knew we had to act quickly. We went into court within 24 hours, and we asked the court to order the administration to stop the destruction of those records, because we knew if it was happening in this instance where they were caught, Who knows what was happening in other instances? And what we have since learned since our lawsuit, which, by the way, we were successful in getting the court to order the restriction of the deletion of those records, we also have learned that the administration has been using Signal, which is an ephemeral messaging app, to communicate behind closed doors about matters that should never have been reduced to this, type of communication. We're talking about sensitive information about our national security, much of which belongs in protected, classified settings. But these folks are using their phones to communicate. So imagine what would happen if our foreign adversary intercepted that information and how they would use it to go after Americans. It jeopardizes our safety across, the globe. And so we have been continuing to aggressively litigate this because we knew, and we knew then, and we know now, we have since learned that this is the modus operandi of this administration. That is the default for how they are communicating in Signal. We know that because before the administration took hold in January, folks who were contributing to Project 2025 were boasting about how they can evade federal oversight by ensuring there is no paper trail, by not emailing, making sure that you are having as many face-to-face communications as possible. And where you're not able to do that, use ephemeral messaging apps that delete those communications. Knowingly deleting federal records is a violation of federal law. And so at American Oversight, we are charged with ensuring that that does not happen, and that to the extent records are deleted, we are asking the court to ensure that they recover the deletion of those records and stop the use of Signal across the administration, as we are currently seeing.
And as you're saying, across the administration, when you're on Signal, you don't have a record because by law, like you said, you have to keep those records on things like that. They can do anything and say anything on Signal and there's no record. And some
That's
people
right.
called it lazy. Some people called it lazy, but it was strategic. So you don't have to keep the records. Well, that's just my unique perch view of that. We've got so many questions right now or comments. I heard that the USAID workers were told to destroy records. Also, how can they scrub transcripts from the White House?
So with respect to USAID, which is the independent agency that was essentially gutted, by the way, by Elon Musk, who was bragging about this on his platform X shortly after, we went to court very quickly when we learned that they were ordering that records be burned and deleted. And of course, the administration, who, by the way, is willing to lie in order to evade scrutiny and oversight, said, nothing to see here. We are only destroying records for which there are already copies, so we're not in violation of federal law. Well, you have to watch what this administration does and not what it says. We have seen time and time again that this administration, officials in the administration, are willing to misrepresent facts, misrepresent interpretations of law in order to continue to push forward an unlawful agenda. And so at American Oversight, we are calling their bluff every step of the way. And you said was no exception.
And people are asking, well, can they scrub White House transcripts and things of that nature? Someone asked that.
Are they supposed to? I mean, they
No,
are doing
but are they
things
doing it?
they can get away with. That is what public reporting has certainly has represented. Are they supposed to be doing that? No, they're not. All of that information is supposed to be preserved so that the American people have access. That is all part of the historical record. And this administration wants to ensure that people do not have access so they can whitewash history, so that they can make the American people believe what they want to believe in the way that they want to believe it. We are seeing this again and again and again. Again, don't watch what the administration says, watch what it does. And we at American Oversight are ready to call their bluff at every turn.
Is our data safe?
We have serious concerns that this administration was so irresponsible to bring in Elon Musk and Doge, folks who do not have the proper credentials to come in and access some of the most sensitive information that belong to the American people. We still don't know what they're doing with that information. We can surmise, we may find out over time, But those are the kinds of questions that we are asking. That is why we use public records to get access to what they are doing, because that information belongs to the American people. But we are very concerned about the way that our information is being accessed, and we have strong questions about what the administration is doing with that information.
You got a comment. Great job, American oversight. Another question, well, it's a comment, but I'm gonna pose it in form of a question. Um, is our information opened up to Russia and China?
So our information is always going to be vulnerable when we have administration officials who are unwilling to adhere to the proper protocols and use the proper channel for communication. These back channels, using these applications that are not designed for sensitive government business, always renders our information vulnerable. But it usually what happens is you're doing an audit after the fact to see where the vulnerabilities are, and by then it's too late. And so we have real questions about what exposure the information that the government has access to, what access and exposure it's had to other foreign nations. But we don't know sitting here today that Russia and China have had access to that information.
Today has been a huge day. When we plan to bring you on, we plan to talk about Signalgate and Harvard. I still want to throw in Harvard in the last. Do you have a moment? You have a couple more minutes, because this is a huge day. This is a big moment. I mean, the things that you thought are now being pushed in our face as alleged reality from the man who was inside the inner circle. He was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened. What do you take away from this moment? What do you take away from today? Are you going to be digging more? Is American Oversight going to be digging more into these allegations of what he said, what Elon Musk said about what's happening in the Trump administration?
We are absolutely going to be digging in. We are a team of investigators, of litigators, of communications professionals that are constantly monitoring what is happening across the ecosystem. We have serious concerns about the allegations and the accusations that are being traded in social media, which, by the way, we're not the only folks who have access to that. Our foreign adversaries are also watching what is happening. And these are the kind of vulnerabilities that they can exploit. So we don't know where this is going, but we are going to demand information about some of these really troubling allegations that were made, which, by the way, much of that information should be recorded, and some of that information should be government records. And so we're going to make sure that, to the extent that that information is part of the government record keeping, or should be, we are going to be digging and going after it.
Is the shadow court being used to fast track supposed emergency hearings? And also, how many Trump administration staff will be prosecuted?
Well, I certainly don't want to speculate about where things will end up and who will be prosecuted and or when. But I think what we can say is we are seeing this administration use the courts as essentially a tool to fast track, to get the kinds of decisions that will allow the administration to carry forward its unlawful agenda. Where this is all going is President Trump wants to ensure this unitary executive, to give him, as the president, powers that only belong to kings. He wants to ensure that the branches of government are essentially folded under his thumb, that there are not independent checks. That's why he fired the inspectors general. That's why he's removing Democratic board members from independent agencies. That's why he's going after academic institutions like Harvard, targeting nonprofits and other organizations that are conducting oversight, where we have a Congress that is supposed to be conducting oversight over its co-equal branch of government and is failing and abdicating its duty to do so. So the Trump administration is turning its ire toward those who it believes will serve as a check on its out of control agenda. And American Oversight stands ready, as evidenced by the lawsuit that we filed, where they went after Harvard. They are bullying academic institutions, Harvard, Columbia, others, to try and get those institutions to capitulate to its every demand by using the guise of DEI, unlawful DEI is what they're calling it, diversity and equity inclusion programs, saying that they're unlawful, and using that as a pretext to push forward this agenda to make sure that everyone believes and thinks and speaks the way that this administration wants everyone to speak and think and behave. And so, to the extent the administration is parroting talking points about viewpoint diversity is important in academic institutions, they are trying to do the opposite. They are trying to strip these institutions of their academic freedoms and ensure that they're only espousing and hiring, academic professors who reflect their values, their conservative values, because they are threatened by progressive values and those who want to ensure that we live in a multi-racial democracy. And so we sued the IRS, we sued the Department of Treasury, we sued the Department of Education, because we recognize very clearly that the administration is weaponizing the levers of government to go after those institutions with whom it disagrees. And anybody can be next. Any nonprofit, any academic institution, any foundation. Capitulating does not save the day. This administration does not respond well to those sycophants. It does not respond well to those who challenge it. So the only answer here is to stand up for the rule of law and to continue to fight on and on behalf of the American people.
And just to piggyback off of what you said yesterday, the president signed a proclamation banning international students from coming to Harvard. Now, what does that do for the students who are already international students that are already there? What does that do to students who want to come? Think about this. A lot of these colleges and universities, particularly the ones that are considered Ivy League or some of the greater institutions in our nation, to include our HBCUs, we have a large contingent of international students. Elon Musk was an international student who overstayed his visa. Okay.
Mhm.
That's what we are not talking about. What does that do to Harvard?
Well, over a quarter of Harvard's student population are comprised of international students. And so that is designed to essentially strip Harvard of critical funding to essentially serve as a stranglehold so that the academic institution like Harvard cannot continue to operate. So that Harvard ultimately says, okay, Trump administration, we will adhere to your demands. And in terms of the students, I mean, it sends a chilling effect, both to the students who are interested in applying to Harvard, the best and the brightest that you would think any responsible government official would want to attract to our top universities. But that is not the case here. This administration does not care and is sending a warning sign to Harvard and a chilling message to those abroad to say, if you come here and study, we can yank your access, your visas at
Yep.
any time. And that is going to deter people from wanting to even apply in the first instance. Because what students want, they want safety, they want security, they want to come and study, they want to be able to contribute and to ensure, a prosperous future. And the administration is trying to deprive them of that.
Well, listen, I could talk to you for a long time, and our listeners are just, they keep going and keep going. And well, viewers, listeners, they keep going and going with questions. But I'm gonna say this: the level of violations of our national security is staggering. And another person said something about this is really literally a black eye, and they're insinuating the black eye that Elon Musk walked into the
Yeah,
Oval Office with the other day. The
exactly.
tea is hot.
It is
You have
hot.
helped knock the pot over. I got to learn how to hold this cup. I've got to learn. Yes, I've got to learn how to hold this cup. My husband gave it to me. I know he's watching. He's like, what is she doing? But listen, the tea is so hot. We knocked the pot over. I'm going to thank you for taking your time today and being such an explainer, someone who can explain the legalese. Because everyone, we know that the fight is in the streets, but right now it's in the courts and it's got to be in Congress. And I want to thank you and American Oversight for doing what you're doing. Chiama
That's
Chukwu.
right.
You have such a beautiful name. The cheese is the CH is it's Chiama Chukwu. It's a beautiful name. Where's the origin?
Nigeria.
That's it. That's not one of the African countries that's banned. It's seven
It's
African
not,
nations. I know. Yeah,
not
and
yet,
one
not
and
yet.
one Caribbean nation. Yeah.
Yes, not yet.
Well,
We're waiting for it.
yeah. Well, but I appreciate you and I thank you for what you're doing. Do you believe Congress is going? I asked this question of Jonathan. Do you believe Congress is going to act? Because this is in your lap. This is in your lap.
As a former congressional staffer, my hope is that Congress will exercise its oversight powers and act. There is a lot of questions that they certainly should have, as we do. And as you said, it is all there. There are questions that are just lined up, ready for people who care about democracy to ask. And so I really do hope that Congress wakes up, exercises its powers, and conducts the checks on this executive branch as it should have been doing all along.
Chima, someone said, and I'm going to end it with this with you. Thank you so much in capital letters today. Today has been fantastic. I didn't know about American Oversight. You know now. How can they reach you?
Well, you could go to our website, www.americanoversight.org. We need support. There are very few who are willing to stand up to this administration, stand up for and on behalf of the American people. And we are certainly one of those groups. We are not going to roll over. We're not going to cow to intimidation. This is too important. So we appreciate any support that folks are willing to give.
Not only is it too important, it's necessary in this moment where more information just keeps going on all of these platforms. This fight is giving us information that's actually painful. I mean, as we joke and have our popcorn and watch it in real time, the American people are going to be the ones that suffer. This is a
Right.
costly fight
That's right.
financially
That's
and
right.
on the basis of morals and humanity.
That's
So,
right.
at the end of the day, we thank you, American Oversight, for this. We thank you for the information. So, guys, you have been armed. Contrarians, you have been armed. We have knocked the pot over. I'm going to continue to watch all of this. After I get off with you, I got to go write for Black Press USA. Keep writing all this stuff. It never ends. It just keeps coming. I know, I know. It's like, Chioma,
They,
thank you.
they
Chioma,
say when we die.
Chukwu.
So yeah, lots of work.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
April. Thank you for your
Yeah,
work as
Chioma
well.
Chukwu, thank you from American Oversight. Thank you so much. Guys, I appreciate you. We have knocked the pot over with the tea with April. See, I held the cup up right this time. I just want to thank you all. Next week, we didn't even know that all this was happening. Elon Musk is talking about Donald Trump needs to be impeached. Well, the man who's pulling up the impeachment proceedings again, trying to start it, is Congressman Al Green, and we've got him booked for next week. One of our guests for next week. I'm telling you, by the time next week, it'll be something, it'll be a whole bunch new. But we thank you. We thank you so much for joining the Tea with April. I mean, it's been about a month now, close to a month if it's not a month. I thank you for joining. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of fabulous guests. This is about informing you and knocking the pot over, giving you information that you can use. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. Whew. I'm going to go watch TV and type for Black Press USA. Be well. Take care. Bye bye.